This is the morning shift.
Sussed. Sorted. Shifted.
With sorted.org.nz, giving you the free tools and guides to all things money. Indeed it is, and this is a chance for us to go a little deeper into finances, into things that are going on in our own lives, and to learn a little bit. You know, when we started this
Real
podcast,
chats, eh?
yeah, we had the dream that we would be upskilling ourselves and our community when it comes to all things money. And thank you so much to Sorted for getting on board. And today is no different. Today, we're talking about getting out of debt.
Oh, don't say the D word.
It's easy. I don't need to teach myself how to get into debt. This is all about getting out of debt. And I welcome into the studio Ange Smart. She comes from MoneyTalks, all on behalf of sorted.org.nz. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so let's...
She's actually driven from Tauranga for this chat, so we need to give kudos to that. How much money? One more time. Sorry, Mr. Mike.
No, you're right. So, Ange, I guess my first question to you is just to learn a little bit about you and your money habits, because you know it's all good and it's all good and well to talk about how help others, but I guess for you, always knowing kind of what your background is and where you come from is a nice place to start for us, so we can go, okay. So she wasn't always good at this, or and so on. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and your story around Money Talks.
Kia ora. So I grew up in a farming community in Reparoa, between Rotorua and Taupo, and was lucky to have parents that had been taught things from their parents. Yep. So not like learning about money was anything taboo in our household. If anything, I'm pretty sure my dad told me each year after being at the accountant how much I had cost him.
What a great thing to say though.
Each year. And so, really lucky and acknowledge the privilege of being able to go to schooling, go to boarding school and get an education. I was a bit of a nerd and I loved all things accounting and economics and happily went to university and happily sat those exams, which my kids now look at me like,
Mom, how?
What is wrong with you? Are you broken? And so for me, numbers, money, like that stuff all came pretty easily. Then I met my husband, who is on the very top end of spectrum of ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia.
I get along with him so well.
Mate, we had, when we got married in our early 20s, he had 2 gym memberships, going to neither of them.
That sound like me. Because you need one that you can go to late at night and one if you wake up early enough in the morning.
He
that's how this works.
He just thought if he went to one, the other one would just instantly cancel. He had a student loan for diploma that he never finished, and he had
Muck on the guy.
That's me. I done that.
Yeah. But man, that man could make some money, and that's where those strengths around neurodiversity and dyslexia and ADHD, mate, that man could sell anything, and he did, and he's been an epic provider for our whānau, enough so that he could retire quite early on. But we were a partnership, which meant that I was definitely in charge of all things money,
Finances.
all things finances. I don't think until about the last sort of 5 years he even knew what bank we banked with. So it's been a journey, but realizing and acknowledging that a lot of these tools are absolutely fed down from parent to child, and now we're doing it with our own kids. I'm like, man, my eldest is coming up 14 and she wants to get a job, and I said, half of your pay is going into shares, and she's like, no, and I'm like, no, like honestly, if that's one thing that they tell us on the phone lines every single day, is I wish I started saving earlier. I wish I started putting money away earlier. And so and so that leads me to Money Talks. So I had previously been a financial advisor during the GFC, so back in 2008, 2009, when it was pretty brutal watching, the world collapse and financially. I was just out of university. And, I feel like I lost my soul working for that industry for such a long time. Honestly, I just felt like I was making rich people richer. And it had it just didn't align with myself and my husband and my family's, sort of kaupapa of it. Yeah, and so for us, I got involved with Christians Against Poverty for a while, just as a volunteering part of our church, and that is when it really is kind of struck a chord with me of going, we need to find a way to bridge this gap, because the have and the have-nots is just getting huge. And having my husband be this, kind of great person who I have witnessed with all his heart and soul wanting to do good with money, but literally, he'd get paid on a Wednesday night, he'd rock up to the ATM, take out every single dollar of cash, make sure he had enough fuel for the weekend so that he could get back to work on Monday. But he'd live large, from Wednesday to Sunday, and then start the whole process over again.
It's super hard. I have ADHD, same as your partner. And one thing with ADHD is you're really impulsive.
Oh, yes.
And so there'll be times where you save like $6 on a coffee, and you'll be like, oh, that's great, I've saved so much money, and there's 3 coffees in a row, I haven't had that, $18. And then you'll go spend $500 on something you don't need.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's just, but it's you have to learn these things along the way. I thought there was, and it is with ADHD, but like these impulsive buys,
Correct.
they almost give you gratification.
Oh, it's a dopamine, and that is that
that's your
whole conversation, and that's why we've started with our kids. One of our daughters is also quite severely ADHD, and so we have started teaching. We do pocket money on the first of the month, and you only get it once, and so because you can only spend money once.
Boundaries.
And if we can start teaching from a young age that actually you've got to learn, and because the other thing with ADHD is tomorrow doesn't exist. Basically, so why would you save for tomorrow? Because right now I'm living today, and so KiwiSaver, like every time I'd sit down with my husband and be like, "Can we do a budget?" He's like, "What for?" There's money in the account. I'll just keep swiping until it declines, and it's great if you've got one person in the relationship that understands and gets this, and you've got a healthy relationship where you can do that. But it is hard, and this is, we'll go on talking further about, different type of spending types and that kind of thing, because it is not a moral failure to not know how to budget. And I think that's where the previous generations have been, like if you thought about going to the budgeting services, you'd have a little old lady that would sit there and wag her finger at you or whatever about how, you should just know how to do this better. But mate, like we all go to school, we all learn algebra, but not all of us learned and understood what it meant, because our brains are different. The way that we respond to stimuli, whether it's, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, however stuff is getting sold to us. And so that's why something like MoneyTalks, which is, the free financial helpline for all of Aotearoa, and it's open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. The weekends, slightly shorter hours, but we've got an epic crew of people who have been there. Most of them are either they're either practicing financial mentors, have been financial mentors, have been stuck in the WIN system as such. Like they are beneficiaries who have so happily been like, nah, I've got a job that now works around my kids, because understanding that our world is not black and white, it is grey. And especially for solo mamas, that trying to balance that is really hard. And so I don't know if you guys remember the excuse me the program Home Improvement.
Yes.
Yes. Do you remember? What was the guy's name that was on the other side of the fence?
Well, there was Alan.
No, that's Tim.
I know.
Wilson,
Wilson, yes.
You can only see.
Yeah.
Correct.
Bucket hat.
Correct. And so we kind of joke ourselves. We're not Wilson. We're just a bunch of aunties that you can't see us, but you can pour your soul out. Because most of the time there's so much whakamā talking about money, talking about, how did I get to this place? I've got 4 kids to feed. I've just had my second notice that the power is going to get turned off. I've failed. But realistically, when we hear that, we just swoop into action. There is no failure, because when you understand that the system is set up to basically make it so hard for some people to even just exist, to look after the kids, to be able to get kai on the table, to get to work, we feel from our team's perspective, it is our responsibility to make sure that everybody is looked after. And so when you call us, first up, we want to know, is there kai on the table for dinner tonight? What do we need to do to get that if that's not going to be the case?
And what do you do? Like, just for people listening, like, I love that you work for Money Talks and you have probably fielded hundreds, thousands of calls as a team.
Yep. About 200 whānaus a day we talk to.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so I think for anyone listening right now, and they might feel like, I don't know if I'd call because can they actually help? Like, what do you kick into action on their behalf and for them?
Yep. So immediately, our whole goal is to get somebody out of fight and flight. Like if their original question is, I've just had this notice, I've got debt collector, whatever. So first and foremost, what can we do immediately? And that is, finding and connecting with the local food banks because, man, shout out to those guys. They are doing epic work. And they're social supermarkets. They are incredible organisations. And
so if I don't even know, like maybe, hey, there's one in your town. There's one you can go and get kai right now.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yep. That must feel like hopeful for them to hear that. Like, are you serious?
Yeah. And understanding that there are a lot more people that use food banks than you think. And I think, when you are feeling like you are struggling day to day, not even week to week, day to day financially, and that you're drowning in debt, that you're the only one going through this. But I can tell you right now, after, I've been leading this epic team for the last 3.5 years through COVID, through cost of living, lockdowns, all of that kind of stuff. And I promise you, anybody and everybody that you can think of around Aotearoa has called us. And it's not a particular community or gender or demographic or anything like that. Realistically, we're all only one event happening for all of a sudden, the floor to drop out. And in some ways, we kind of hoped COVID would be that, that equalizer, that people would understand, like, life can change really quickly, whether it be, a separation, divorce, sickness, loss, anything, just mental health, trauma, that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, what was easy and, you went to go and get that loan and it was easy back then is now not so easy. And it's our job from Money Talks to help you walk through that process, understand that you do not need to feel whakamā about coming and asking for help.
Hey, Angie, you were just mentioning the idea behind, it's everybody and anyone who has debt, and it just, it can take one little moment that makes that debt even, it makes you start drowning under that debt. So where recently, obviously, the Black Friday sales has come through. It's man, them tempting. And you were talking before about how it's, this world is geared to make sure that you do go into debt. Like that's the whole idea,
absolutely.
And make you struggle. So Black Friday sales, I'm sure some of us took full advantage of that as we're heading into Christmas. What are some of the things, I guess, and what are some of the tools that we need to be looking out for in the journey to try and stay out of the deep waters, and some of the tricks that they are using to make sure that we are spending credit? Yeah.
First and foremost is to understand it is credit. I know that they've sold it to us as buy now, pay later. Oh, you're just using your money ahead of time or whatever, that it's your money, that it isn't debt because you're not getting charged interest. But all it takes is, once again, one event to happen.
And you're behind.
And man, that's when they make their money, because they don't have these businesses for free. They're there to make money off somebody, and it's usually the business and you as the consumer. And on average, there's about 10% of people that are behind at any point in time on their buy now, pay later. So, for an example, so how Money Talks and Sorted works together is that Sorted has all the tools. They've got the great website that has all the planners, the guides, the calculators, all that kind of stuff. So if as Black Friday and Christmas and Easter and every single thing that
Boxing Day sales,
I don't know, and kids just home for 6 weeks.
Oh, come on.
Anything. And this is the conversation we were having about how there's an entire science around removing the money from your pocket into their shareholders' pocket. And yeah, they are using science to get you to buy stuff. And so what we would recommend absolutely is to go onto the Sorted website, and if you feel comfortable, use those debt calculators. There is an option for buy now, pay later, where it's going to look like, so you can see what, and plan for it. If you know that you want to use or spend a particular amount of money for Christmas and getting ready for the Christmas presents, you can use that as a goal, and then you can share it with, your partner, so that it's not just mum doing all the work for for all the Christmas presents, and so you can use a lot of those tools and work together, and because most of it is just about being informed. Because how many of us sit there and go, I'm just not going to even open up my banking app today. I just don't want to see it. You go shopping or being out for a big weekend. Yeah. Monday, you just
fingers crossed and hope for the best.
Correct. And buy now, pay later is quite similar, because it's not unusual to see up to 10 different buy now, pay laters, and you can be up to $10,000 to $15,000 in debt.
Wow. That's that creeping up thing, right? Like you find like you're doing well, but then, as you've mentioned, it as an event or something that just changes slightly. All of a sudden, your daughter needs braces. Like all these kinds of things that just creep up on you. That was a personal story. It all gets a lot. So what are we doing? What advice are you giving on the helpline to I guess warn people around the creeping up and how to stop these things getting out of control?
Well, we are realistic that at the end of the day, debt is part of our life, right? There are some things like the dishwasher breaking, or, the washing machine, or like you said, the braces that need to be done.
Like those hidden costs, those unforeseen ones.
Correct. And as much as we would like to think that we're always prepared, there are going to be times when you're going to need to access credit. But understanding that to access credit, and every single time you go on those websites at night time and you go, I'll just see how much it costs for me to borrow this amount of money from GM or this amount of money from Instant Finance or whatever. Every single time you do one of those full applications, it's attacking your credit score, which means that by the time you finally want to go and borrow some money, your credit score has dropped so low that you'll get given a worse interest rate. I
didn't realize we even did credit scores in Aotearoa. Like you see it as an American movie thing with like, your credit score is so low. So do we do that here as well?
We absolutely do. But
do we know about it? Okay. Do we know our credit scores?
Get some game. Okay. Come on, spit some game.
Here we go.
We need to know.
I'll ask these guys. A, do you even know your own credit scores?
We'll never clue.
I don't know my credit score.
Do you know how many credit reporting agencies there are in Aotearoa that you have to get the information from?
You know the answer to that? No.
So, and this is the conversation. We're like, why are our kids not taught this at school?
Yeah.
So there's 3 credit reporting agencies, and so you could go on one and be like, sweet, it says 1,000 or 900 or something, because 1,000's like the max, and you'd be like, yeah, cool, I'm good. But a different company that you've got credit with, because under New Zealand legislation, they don't even have to report to all 3. So you actually have to download 3 separate reports in order to get the whole picture, because you can think you're totally sweet as, and the amount of people that we have on the lines that when we chat to, they're like,
buggers,
good. And then you go to the bank, like you've been trying so hard to save up for a house, and you go to the bank and they're like, bro, over here, you've got like an entire default.
That you may not know about.
Then that makes people feel like deflated, eh? It's
correct. You're like, where did
why
this
am I
come
trying?
from?
I'm going to buy a pair of shoes on Afterpay now. After trying to save for a house because that person told me no. It's like,
correct.
That's how people that's how I work.
But they don't even know, like, for those who wouldn't even, I was completely unawares that they kept your credit score. So what are the type of things that, and sorry, this is going off. Now I'm interested in that. You've got my interest going in a different direction. So what are the types of things that affect your credit scores? Obviously missing payments.
Absolutely, even by one day.
So that's like on a credit card.
Like, can you get
like that 3-month
score
thing
back?
You've got to be perfect for 3 months.
It's like an Uber rating.
As my husband would say.
Like a relationship.
It's like relationship points. So really hard to earn, super easy to lose. It takes you all day to earn your 100 brownie points, but in one foul move, you'll lose 1,000.
I heard that.
So, absolutely losing, not paying like your power bill by one day, your phone bill, if you credit, you just sit there and think, whatever, I'll pay it next week. Every single time you pay it one day late, you are impacting your credit score.
So
they play for keeps.
So that's an intentional decision by them, right? Because, I mean, if you're able to prove that you had the money but you forgot, it doesn't really matter because it's already goes scratched to your name. So I'm always like, I'm the conspiracy theorist in the group, right? I'm always trying to look at an answer like a little bit deeper than So if that's the case, is it really about having a set of rules that actually makes it really hard for people to have good credit? So that, but then they want people to lend.
That they
but
do,
then they
but,
don't.
but,
They want
but then
a
if they
certain type of people to lend.
So they use credit scores to obviously, like, you know, when you go to a bank to get a personal loan, they're going to use these credit scores to decide how much, at what interest rate that you're going to have this lent out to you. So if you're seen as a very safe bet that you always pay on time, you know, you'll get charged quite the lowest interest rate that's
Fair enough.
available,
Awesome.
right?
There it is.
But the issue for us and what we see on the lines is that, especially if there has been, say, domestic abuse and someone's credit has been used by an abusive partner, they've finally managed to get out of this relationship, they've gone with the kids, they've finally found a house to rent, and they want power. All of a sudden, they cannot get power on on post-pay, meaning that you pay the next month, because they're failing the credit check. Because if you fail a credit check, you have to pay for prepay power, which is more expensive.
So, hang on a sec. So that is terrible. That is a terrible situation for people who say, like, wanted to buy a car, for instance.
Yeah, that was mine.
Are you suggesting that if you forgot to pay power bills or you were late on, I don't know, some type of IRD payment or something like that,
You're going to get
you're paying a
offered-
higher interest?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's skullduggerous.
And it's a bit like a poverty penalty is what we say. You know, it's like, so if you have less than 20% when you want to go buy a house, you have to pay a higher rate than if you've got more than 20%. And this is the issue, right? It's harder for people to get ahead because the system in many ways is set up. And that's why being able to use, you know, the tools that sorted, like if you know that you want to be able to look at buying a house in the next sort of 5 years, or, you know, at least try and, or even pay off debt or whatever, all those things, because at some point you want to get a loan for, you know, maybe you've got another kid coming and you actually do need a bigger car, and that's okay. Yeah. What can you do now by using those tools on the website, being able to, you know, make sure that you're planning your budget, that you know that on what date the money's coming in, so that you can make sure that power bill is paid off in time and it's paid every single time, so that your credit score isn't hit, so that by the time you go to borrow this money, you're actually going to get offered the better financial interest rate.
I thought it was just like they give you the best one you have for you based on how you are.
Is it almost the opposite? If you go and buy a car and you see there's three, sorry, and we're staying this is just so fascinating at the moment, but you know how they go, okay, let's go out the back and check your credit score. Mm-hmm. Will they almost try and find the one where you have the lowest credit score so they can pick that one?
Higher interest
coming back to them?
Not quite. So what they'll have is if they have an in-house finance company, or they have a finance company that works with that dealership, then they will, you know, have a contact with them, and then they will use their in-house credit reporting scores to look at what is the overall. So, you know, maybe the conspiracy theorists and all of us go potentially, but realistically, the capitalist side is they're going to do whatever they can to make the most amount of money off you.
Yeah, but if we didn't know about, you know what I mean? Like if you didn't know your own credit score and you don't know.
Correct.
So, Andrew, I think what this has painted for me personally is, before we were talking about staying out of debt for the sake of like just staying out of debt and staying afloat. What you've just, I guess, unearthed to all three of us in the studio is it's not only about staying above water in the now. It's actually going to affect you moving forward in the future with your credit score,
yes.
And that is that for people who are above water at the moment, who can feel themselves sitting there going, oh wow, I never knew a late power payment or a this or that would then affect me when I wanted to go and upgrade my car, or I am looking to buy a house, or whatever it is.
Correct.
That has blown my mind.
Because these are the things that, you know, we're saying this is what should be talked about in schools in many ways. You know, how many people are like, had no idea that there are 3 credit reporting agencies, Ilion, Equifax, and Centrix are the 3, and all you need.
They sound.
Do you know how to check our credit scores now?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Can we?
You can download a couple of apps.
Don't check mine, Brooke.
What you will need, and see, to me, this is where we think that there are more barriers that need to be. You need to have a driver's license. You need to have some form of ID. And we know for some people, being able to get that is a bit harder. And so being able to use financial mentors to have those conversations, because they'll help you get the right IDs so that you can even find out, what are your credit scores?
Wow.
I'm sure you've spent many a night sleepless or thinking about a situation that has affected you. And even as I listen to this now, it's kind of like, well, we can look at the huge hole that has been created, and we can I'm sure you're probably like me, like we've got big hearts, we want people to help, but then there's also that kind of rubber hits the road thing of we do have to look at things like debt calculators. We do have to go and make the time to make those calls.
Correct.
We do have to stop wincing at our bank account and go the extra step. And I suppose doing that self-work and education, that is also the way to combat a lot of this stuff, while still being completely empathetic of the fact that there can be society is not always set up to be fair.
No. Correct.
What is the education that you want people to know listening to this if they are in debt that will, I guess, a gem for them, or that they should feel excited and energized about being hopeful to move forward?
There is no better day to deal with it than today. You do not need to go to sleep tonight wondering how you're going to put petrol in the car, or pay for the rent this week, pay for your mortgage this week, how to pay your school. I don't want to say school fees because that means to be donations, or pay for
Totally.
your kids' sports game,
Boots
boots. You don't want to have to say no, but so there's all these other debts, and we often say in some ways that it's not necessarily an income problem; it's a debt problem. And because we've got all these tricks and stuff trying to get people to spend so much money, that people do become really, really overwhelmed. And it has been a rough few years, and people have been doing whatever they can to simply survive. And I just want to acknowledge that, because for so many whānau, it's been like, how do we keep our jobs? How do we keep the kids in school? How do we make sure that they're fed when groceries are going up 20% every single year? You go to buy something one week and it's $5 and it's $6 or $7 the next
Straight
week,
up.
and there are things that are happening that are so outside of people's control, and so it can feel so overwhelming. And so for us, we will always encourage that, hey, if you feel like you've got the ability to do it, you and your whānau want to sit down and, you get out those spreadsheets and, you find the one who loves Excel, or, literally more than happy to go onto the sort of website, use any of those budget tools, because, man, they go into detail. They're going to think about things that you haven't thought about when doing a budget. And it's literally money in, money out. How much have you got left? And if you can tell that you don't have enough left, or you don't have enough money to have your emergency savings, or, your debt is just feeling so suffocating, then that's when you give us a call. So, and then what we do then is, like I said, well, make sure we've got food. If your power's about to be turned off, we'll have a conversation with the electricity provider about making sure, hey, no, there needs to be some breathing room. That is probably our biggest thing, is like, we just need space so that this person can be able to go and see any financial mentor. Now, these are free. These are in your area. They are kaupapa Māori. They are Pacifica-led, church-based. They are people who all they want to do is advocate for you.
Can I ask, is all debt created equal, in the sense that, like, let's say we're going on to sorted.org.nz, we are looking at the budgeting calculator and what we're getting coming in and coming out. We're looking at our debt that has been accrued over the time. Is there one in particular that we should be hitting first, is what I mean? Like, what is there a way that you suggest to people who have called up for help, or that, in your own experience, that there is certain debt that needs to get done before the other one gets done, kind of thing?
Often they'll talk about doing like one small one first to make you feel like you've had a victory. You've got rid of one. But the conversation is that we should always have a emergency fund. And for those people who are literally living week to week, trying to find an extra $5 a week to put in an emergency fund feels so overwhelming and hard in itself.
And actually, like, debilitating, thinking $5 a week for how long? What? In 5 weeks, I have $25?
Yeah.
Like, that, to me, like, that's actually in my life, and I certainly have had more help, and but that's a huge barrier for me saving. Is often I'm like, what? So after a year, what? I've got $1,000, or and I actually
It just doesn't feel like there's enough reward for the effort put in, right?
Totally. And then I think about people who have a lot less, and it's like, why would anyone choose to turn their life around?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those are the conversations.
And
right?
that's when we would say, like, yep, go through the sorted website, have a look, and you can look at putting in debt calculators. You can try and work out, if you put so much per week against one, what's that going to look like? And if you feel like, yep, happy as to look through that, or rather, if you want to give us a call, we can have a chat to you to look at finding that free financial mentor, because there may be debts such as car loans which have been given to you irresponsibly. And so what that means is that there are lenders out there that have put you in a precarious position that you could never afford.
Because they just want to move the car, right?
They wanted the car, they wanted the money. And so there's some really great pieces of legislation or law that have been passed to make sure that these lenders are not allowed to do this. And what a financial mentor will do is they'll have a look at your budget, and if they go, man, this person's, only receiving a benefit or is on minimum wage or something like that, why did they get given a $35,000 car loan?
Do you get to keep the car if you can catch up the...
Mark.
Sorry.
Depending on the situation.
You can? Wow. Sorry.
But what the whole point is that they can actually challenge that lender and basically put you back into that position as if you had never ever bought that car, because they've actually made a financial gain on being irresponsible.
And these are the things that we don't know about.
Correct. And most people, because let's face it, if once again, if all you want to do is get to work, drop the kids off at school, and you're walking into a car dealership and they're like, yeah, have this, you need this, oh, what about this, and we'll just add this on, and it's okay because it's only going to be an extra $20 a week on your 7-year payment.
Which they don't tell you, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, so by law, once again, they have to show everything. But if you're stressed because you know that your other car's broken down and this is the only dealership that's offering you some finance, you're going to sign it no matter what.
And that's where it feels like, because you can feel like you're drowning at the moment. And
Absolutely.
there's just a symphony of debt that you find yourself in.
Correct.
And the easiest thing, actually, instead of making that call and learning or seeing how you can get help, is I just need that instant gratification right now to be able to pay for that, and now we're in debt twice.
Yeah, how to make
3
this
times, 4
make
times.
this problem go away.
We'll deal with that when that arises again in 6 months.
Correct. And so what a financial mentor can do is actually look at all these debts. So, whether you've got a debt collection agency, excuse me, we have seen some of the most dodgiest stuff happen with debt collection. People, stalking their Facebook profiles, sending threatening letters, all of that ending up at their house. And there are actual rules about what they can and cannot do. So, if you have got any debt collectors that are harassing you, please give us a call, because we will help you with that, because it's not.
And you've got to give us the number. Like we've absolutely plugged sorted.org.nz.
Yes,
how do people get in touch with your Money Talks?
Okay, so yes, there are a couple of ways. So you can call us on 0800 345 123, and we've got a really short answering time, because we've got an epic crew who are there waiting for your calls.
Awesome.
And you've got to do the number again.
Okay.
Because
nice and
people could have nice and slow.
0800 345 123. Awesome. Yeah. And then if you can go on to moneytalks.co.nz, we also have a live chat, and there are no bots. There are only epic people at the other end. And so for some, you could be cooking dinner, you could be sitting on the bus heading to uni, you could be anywhere that you don't want people to hear you talk about your money problems, right? You can be jumping onto that live chat and say, I need help. And they will give you that help and refer you and do exactly the same things as what you would do on the phone with a live chat. You can contact us by email. You can contact us via text on 4029 for free as well. So there are so many different options depending on how people feel comfortable. We have translation services available at all times. So awesome. So that means, I know a lot of time younger family members are often translators for the older whānau, and so therefore being able to have it so that everybody has the buy-in, everybody understands what's going on, and that moving on to that next stage, there is a lot of hope because they understand what's going on.
Oh, that's the word, hope.
Hope.
That's
Hope is everything. The amount of times that people get off the phone to us and be like, you can literally hear it in their voice because they have been holding on to it for so long. And, you know, it's not uncommon that we have people who are at very tenuous times. Yeah, because money, the issue with money is that it affects everything. You know, if you are worried about not being able to pay the bills, you're not sleeping at night, you're not feeding yourself properly, you're probably not being the best partner or the best mum or dad that you want to be, because literally the money thing is weighing on your mind so much. And if out of the only thing that you get out of this entire podcast is that there are options, you never ever have to feel like there is no way out, because there absolutely is, and it's free, and there are people that are there. You've got some incredible people out in our community that are doing the hard mahi. They will come visit you in your home, because, you know, if you've got lots of young kids, dragging them into a
Time poor as well.
Time poor. Being able to have a reliable car to be able to get to the service, to be able to, you know, you work night shifts, so therefore, you know, depending on what time you can go in. But there are people out there who are going to help be your advocate. And if you knew that you never had to hide from that unknown number, hide from the email, or, you know, because it used to be like you wouldn't go out to your letterbox, or I don't even know how many people get sent letters anymore.
I feel affronted when a letter turns up now.
Yeah.
Like, just send it to me in email at least, or text.
True.
But yeah.
But you quickly, but, you know, if you see an unknown number and you know you've got debt, you're not answering. You're not answering it, you know. And so what that means is, when you go and see a financial mentor, is that all communication about that debt has to go via the financial mentor. So that means you never have to speak to that company again.
And is it for everyone else? Like you were talking about, so no matter what level of debt you've got, you guys are available for everyone. So just once again, AngeSmart, Money Talks, 0800 345 123 if you'd like to text through 4029, is that correct?
Correct.
And then moneytalks.co.nz.
Yeah.
Moneytalks.co.nz is the place to go. Remembering, works in unison with our mates at sorted.org.nz.
Correct, because if you're on their website and you go through all their articles, you'll see our numbers and everything linked through when it talks about what's the difference between a financial mentor and a financial advisor. You know, so that's why we work so closely with Sorted, because they're doing all the epic mahi and being able to get the information and the calculators, all those fancy things that, you know, that aren't what we do. So they do all the education. They do the great work in getting it out there, knowing that for people who feel comfortable in being able to use these calculators, sweet as. But if you feel like you need a little bit more help, give us a call. We'll walk through it. We'll help you fill out those calculators or those planners or the budgets. Absolutely. And then if we think that, hey, it would be really awesome for you to see a financial mentor in your community, then that's when we'd do a referral.
And this has been a wonderful podcast, and I'll tell you why. It warms my heart to know that no matter what level of debt you may be facing right here and right now, if you're listening to this podcast, there is hope at the other end of the phone call. There is some help when it comes to the likes of using the calculator, the budget calculators and what have you at sorted.org.nz. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is the inside, you know, the fact that we're up against it in today's day and age. We've got advertisers who know exactly how to get us to spend our money. We've also got credit scores that are plummeting without our knowledge and don't even know that we even have them or where we could check them. There's a lot to this and plenty of levels to it. But thank you for spending some time sharing that with us, and thank you for what you do for a job.
I believe in you.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that you see these days that you don't believe, but I believe in everything you're doing.
Thanks to my epic team. You know, they're the ones that are doing the hard mahi literally every single day, you know, holding sort of 20 to 50 people's emotions every day, because they have the heart of going, no, we need to make sure that everybody has a voice and has that hope, because realistically, that is what's going to help.
Yeah.
I just want to, before we finish, I'm reminded of a conversation I had with my cousin about money, and she was talking to me about how she's got on top of her finances, and she's got 4 kids, and she said, I don't know if this will help anyone, but in terms of just making that call, getting onto it, and feeling a little bit paralyzed by your situation of going, I'm trying to save, I'm trying to get an emergency fund, I have so much debt to pay, how do I get ahead? She said she remembers telling her son he couldn't go on a sports trip. And she said, but I've told him that he couldn't have certain things before. And she said it was one thing to say no and not have a plan and not know where we were going as a whānau. It was a completely different thing to say no to that sports trip, but know that I could say yes to the next one. And I think that's kind of like in the realm of how we're talking about debt and moving forward. I think that kind of it's a great story to remember. And so if you have gotten to the end of this and you are like, Angie's saying stuff that's just like, I feel like she's saying my life, or she's ticking off my checklist about things that I have fears about or that I need help with, please let this be a defining moment in your life that you pick up the call, because people like Angie and her awesome team and Sorted, they actually want to help, We really want to help out.
There are so many services, so many great people that are volunteering their time, but are also being paid to make sure that as financial mentors, that they are your biggest advocate. And there's no finger wagging now. Like that's the thing of the past, you know, because life looks different. And ultimately what they'll do is they'll make sure they'll look at that budget and they go, okay, what are the things that have to be paid first? Food, power, rent. Everybody else, they can wait their turn. Yeah. And they then go and negotiate with the creditors and say, actually, you know what? They can only pay $5 a week. That's all you're going to get. Oh. And it means we
don't know how to do that.
I kind of want that,
or that lingo of how to say that,
but I kind of want that.
Correct, it is, and that's the power that financial mentors have in this country, and
they know the rules.
They do.
They know the
rules.
game that's being played.
Yep, and then the banks and the power companies and everybody else, they have to play by those rules. And you know, between the likes of Retirement Commission, Sorted, FinCap, MoneyTalks, there's a bunch of epic organisations, NGOs alike, that all we want to do is make sure that people feel like there is hope, that there are lots of options, and they never ever have to feel like, that
and use are like the money avengers. Use are the money avengers that we can call them. Thank you, thank you so much, and thank you to the team at MoneyTalks, and of course a big thank you to sorted.org.nz for a chance for us to be able to sit here and talk about these things.
Sussed. Sorted.
Shifting with sorted.org.nz, giving you the free tools and guides to all things money.